recording. For those who cannot be here, hola, magnífico.
Okay.
Buenos días, buenos días.
You to click OK.
Está lloviendo hoy en Arizona. ¡Ay, qué maravilla! ¡Qué maravilla! Wow. Es estupendo. It's great. I am going to tell you guys as we've got the recording going, because there are those people who always watch online exclusively due to sitting duties with kiddies. I am thinking through that whole thing of like, you know, someday, whenever we go in person, a long time from now, because I know that's how it's gonna go. I am thinking of maybe just doing recording and still putting it up on internet, because I know more than one person has had that thought. Gee, what happens when that day comes? And I do want to maintain that, and there probably will be a way for me to do it. I'm probably going to have to, you know, set up cameras and stuff, but there are ways to upload things. So I think that is something I would like to continue. I just need to figure out the most efficient way to do that. Gee, another project. Okay. Yay. Because I didn't have enough technology projects as it was. Okay. Bueno, ¿qué vamos a hacer? ¿Qué vamos a hacer hoy? What are we going to do today? Vamos a practicar con muchísimas cosas. We're going to do kind of, it's just kind of like throwing the net out, the wide net today. We've got a number of things. I do want to take a quick look at our panda story before we start, so we have an overview. I know some of you for sure took the little quizzy thing. And by the way, a lot of you did super well with that. I got to say, era impresionante, fue impresionante. It was impressive. But I know maybe some people didn't get time to do it. So we are going to take a quick look just for structures to see what kind of big questions people have or had about that. Afterwards, I want to go into any kind of questions people might have about reflexives. I want to join up two ideas of review of interrogatives with reflexives, so that you build some ideas of how would I ask questions using reflexives. So we want to work at that. We want to look at today also when those little pronouns will go in different places. And why does that happen? Because you will hear that. And then maybe tie it up at the end with when is se not reflexive? Because se is it's a loaded gun in Spanish, that little word se. It can mean a whole bunch of things. So hopefully we can fit all of that in. We'll see how successful we are. Vamos a empezar con algo, un momentito, con un repaso. Espero que quizás tengo que engrandecer un poquito las letras. I think I need to expand my letters a little bit more. Vamos a ver un repaso. We're going to look at a review. We're going to take a look at a review. ¿Pueden ver el artículo? Can you see the screen, the article?
Yes.
Okay. Es grande lo suficiente, big enough? Bien, ok,
Yes.
Vale, gracias. Ok, tenemos mucho vocabulario nuevo aquí. I want to take a quick look at this, just sort of point out things we have used and see if you had kind of questions that maybe I might not have anticipated about this. And my Chinese is I have none. So, you know, ¿cómo se pronuncia? How do you pronounce that? Xiao, Xi, Zhou? How would you say that? ¿Cómo se dice en mandarín?
Okay, I can help you. It's xiao qi ji.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
No puedo repetir. I cannot repeat that, pero así es. Okay, gracias, Uruguay. Okay. Y tenemos primero aquí el vocabulario un cachorro. Un cachorro es puppy. Cachorro es a pup of any kind. Y mi gatito está llorando. Tengo un gatito llorando. Cállate, gatito. Oh, gatita, es gatita. I've got a crying cat. You have to ignore her. Okay. Cachorro would mean pup. It's used for a lot of different types of animals. So, you know, un lobo. If a wolf has a pup, a baby, they would call it cachorro. Osos, bears, cachorro, they would call it a pup.
Dog as well?
Dogs as well. Sí, dogs. Perros. Sometimes you hear perrito, but perrito can mean a little doggy or a puppy, either way. Cachorro always indicates it's not just small in size, but that it's a young offspring.
Okay.
Okay. Entonces tenemos aquí la historia corta, the short story of this. ¿Sí? Aproximadamente, approximately. You learned how to do Lee words. Aproximado, aproximadamente. This thing of hace with 3 meses literally means it makes about approximately 3 months. It makes about 3 months. But when we use this with a past, which is nació, it really is how we would say 3 months ago. 3 months ago, approximately, is said with this idea of linking the words hace with the period of time, and then a past, which of course you haven't had yet, but that's okay. So approximately 3 months ago, a baby panda was born. Nació, was born. There's your nación. That's why I put that in English. In the National Zoo in DC. Ahora el cachorro tiene nombre, informan los funcionarios. Funcionarios es buena palabra. Funcionarios looks like functionary.
Official?
Y es así, official. Exactamente, official. Cuando hay un empleado, especialmente en el gobierno, especially in the government, especialmente en el gobierno, una persona, un empleado que trabaja en el gobierno, tiene una posición que ayuda a la gente, se llama un funcionario. Funcionario covers, it's an umbrella word, and it covers lots of people who would work in the various official positions in any kind of institution. En una institución, en cualquiera institución, in any institution, no, funcionario. Okay, and here we've got a reflexive, se llama. Se llama Suwai otra vez. If you puedes pronunciar. Xiao
Ichi.
小奇迹，
Kichi. Okay.
奇迹，
En chino mandarín, en chino mandarín, in Mandarin Chinese, ¿sí? El nombre significa, signifies, we would say means. I'm going to type in here another term you may hear instead of significa. Perdón. Bye. Instead of significa, my punctuation marks go to different keys when I flip between languages. You may sometimes hear people use this term, which is 2 words linked together instead of significa. And that is quiere decir. Quiere decir. Significa signifies or means, but another way to say means is quiere decir. And quiere decir is a little more conversational way if you're talking back and forth, not typing it. A little more conversational way of saying means. Literalmente. Literalmente quiere decir es wants to say. Wants to say. Pero en inglés quiere decir es means. Significa también es means. ¿Ok? Vale. Si una persona quiere, si una persona dice, ¿qué quiere decir? ¿Qué quiere decir? ¿Qué quiere
That
decir? What does it mean? ¿Qué quiere decir luz? What does luz mean? Okay. People will typically use quiere decir. They may use significa also. Y pequeño milagro es little
Miracle.
miracle. Exacto. Los osas panda. And there we use osos, bears, so they don't pluralize panda. I think because it's just a species thing. I don't know really why that doesn't get plural in plural form, but it doesn't. Los osos panda vienen de China y el mandarín es el idioma principal de ese país. Ok. El zoológico permite que la gente vote. It allows that people might be able to vote. The zoo allows other people to do it. That's why it's not vota, it's vote. Vote is a subjunctive, meaning one person allows somebody else to do this thing. And in Spanish, when that happens, it'll look like they did a wrong conjugation. Votar, AR, it's an AR verb. But to use it in subjunctive, because we don't know if people will vote or not. So when we don't know if people will do an action, they put it into something called subjunctive. And it'll look like it's wrong. For votar, it looks like it should be vota, but it is vote, and that es correcto. It is correct to say it that way, because we don't know if the people are going to vote or not. When we don't know if an action is going to happen, they put it in that it looks like wrong conjugation form. The wrong conjugation form is something called subjunctive. Okay. The zoo lets the people vote, to choose, para elegir, to choose, para elegir el nombre del bebé panda. Publicó, it published, there's a past, just so you know. If I punch the O at the end, it doesn't mean I'm publishing it right now. It means somebody did it in the past. Publicó una encuesta. Encuesta es survey, a poll of some type, encuesta. En línea, online. Anytime you want to say online, en línea. Buscamos cosas en línea, ¿verdad? Usamos Wikipedia en línea para buscar información. Buscamos información en YouTube en línea online. Ok. Y se recibieron cerca de, ¿cómo se dice? ¿Cómo se dice clase? 135,000. ¿Cómo diría? How would you say? 135 and make it 1,000 number.
135,000.
Perfecto.
I don't look it up.
135,000, perfecto. 135,000. Y tener el punto, they've got that period in there where we would have a comma. 135,000. So it's really not hard to say those big numbers. You just take that 135 as if it were 135, 135, and tag on the word mil. Okay, votos. Los votantes eligieron, chose, there's a past, okay, entre 4 nombres diferentes en chino. Okay, es ganador. Ganador is a great word, es buena palabra. The word ganar means to win or to earn, like money. Ganar, many times, well, we do this in English too. We say to win, but winner, right? So in Spanish, a similar thing can happen, but sometimes the suffixes, the little tag on the end of the word may change. When you have a word like if you know that ganar means to win, when you see dor, D-O-R on the end, it means somebody who does that thing that it's tagged on to. And it's tagged on to what looks like ganar, win. So that's how you know ganador. You wouldn't even really have to look up ganador if you know that ganar means to win. Ganador is a person who does ganar, a person who wins. So winner es el ganador. El bebé panda, panda nació el 21 de agosto. El zoológico sigue. Ooh, we're going to take a look at that word today, sigue. You're going to see it again. Sigue la costumbre. Costumbre, custom.
Custom. Habit.
Habit, hábito, igual. La costumbre china. De esperar 100 días. And here we don't use it as ciento because it's just 100 by itself. So it's 100, the short form. 100 días. Sigue, follows. Seguir. Seguir either means to follow or to continue. So here probably the best translation is follows the custom, but you could say continue the custom. That would work too. Seguir es una palabra importante. Es un verbo importante. Seguir is an important verb because whenever somebody gives you directions on how to go to a place, they'll use that verb seguir. And it always has funny and honestly somewhat difficult spelling changes. So we'll take a quick look at seguir towards the end of the hour. But follows the Chinese custom of waiting. Esperar quiere decir to wait or to hope. Waiting 100 days. Después del nacimiento, after the birth del panda, para darle un nombre, to give him or give it a name. That little word le is an object. Give it, the panda, give him, if he's a boy, give her, it's a girl. Le means to him or to her. So it is not the same thing as like, lo tengo, it I have, lo, it a thing, lo tengo, I have it. Lo is a direct object pronoun. Le is an indirect object. ¿Cuál es la diferencia? What's the difference? If I ask, what do you have? It. I have it. That's a direct object. What do you have? ¿Qué tienes? Lo tengo. It I have. When what I mean is to him or to her or to it, not just it, but to him, to her, to it. It'll be the word le. Or for him or for her or for it. And here we're giving a name to somebody.
Marilyn.
That's called an indirect object pronoun. That's why that little word le is there. Cici.
Is it then incorrect to put the lay before the dar?
Yes, it is.
It is. It has
And
to.
we're gonna talk about why, because now you're gonna start to see these little words like, and it might be me, te, no, se, those reflexives. It might be lo and la, and los and las. It might be le and les. And we didn't really talk about le and les with this class, did we? Creo que no. I think not. Yeah. We'll talk about that soon. Whenever you see an object pronoun, reflexives are a type of object, direct objects are a type of object, and indirects are a type of object. And objects are just things that receive the action. They don't do it. they get the kickback of whatever the activity is. Okay, so all those little pronouns, the me, te, nos, the se, the lo, la, los, las, the le, the les, all those words are objects. They receive action in some way. Me, te, nos, se receive actions reflexively. Somebody does it and they also receive the action. So reflexives are kind of, es un animal, it's like an animal of its own, okay? And with reflexives, the person who does the action also receives the action. But if I have something, there's a thing that receives that object of possession. Or if I give something to somebody, the thing I give is the direct object, but who I give it to is the indirect. And that's where that little word le comes in. That little word le must be attached there. It cannot come in front of the dot. And I know we said, wait a minute, those things come in front of verbs, but sometimes they get attached. They often get attached when it stays an infinitive. And you'll see some examples of that soon. So sometimes these little words, me, te, nos, and se, or any of the other little pronouns may shift to different places. And we're going to take a look at how that might happen. I will not at this point expect you to know all of that, but just to start to see when they shift positions, here is why. Will you be able to use it in all those positions yet? Maybe not. But just when you read it or hear it, you got to be prepared for sometimes they shift into different places. Okay. So they give him or give it a name. Darle un nombre. La mayor parte, the biggest part, the most part, the majority. La mayor parte, the majority. La mayor parte de los zoológicos le ponen nombre. And here it goes back to in front of the verb, because this is the word order, how they link together like a puzzle that you saw before, just with an indirect. So they put a name on it because you're giving a name to somebody else. And the name is the thing you're giving, but you're attaching it to this being. And that being is the le. Le ponen nombre, they give a name. Le ponen nombre a sus bebés panda cuando llegan a los 100 días, when they arrive at 10 days. Or we might say get to be 10, what I'm saying, 100. When they get to be 100 days old. Llegan a los 100 días. Una vez, one time, una vez, once, una vez también, fue una costumbre en China ponerle, and here it switched back because it was an infinitive and we had to tag it on the end. If the verb doesn't get conjugated, we have to tag it on. So when you hear that, it means they had to tag it on. They had to do it because it was an infinitive. En China, ponerle nombre a los bebés humanos. Oh, human babies. Cuando tenían, and that tenían is a had, I put that in parentheses, tenían 100 días de vida, 100 days of life. En la actualidad, and actualidad doesn't mean actuality, it means right now, the here and now. Actual means currently. It's kind of a false cognate. En la actualidad, so nowadays, these days, currently. En la actualidad, algunas familias todavía, here comes one of those adverbs, todavía celebran, still celebrate. Todavía celebran los 100 días de nacido de un bebé con una fiesta. Es una cosa cultural. En la cultura china. El zoológico anunció el nombre del cachorro el 23 de noviembre. Ese día, that day, ese día el zoológico tuvo que cerrar, had to close, tuvo que cerrar por segunda vez, not una vez, but segunda vez, en el año, debido a la pandemia de coronavirus. Se cierran muchos negocios para evitar que el coronavirus se extienda. Se cierran looks like it's a reflexive, doesn't it? But se cierran is one of those odd times when se is not reflexive. And we're going to see what that means. So we're going to pop this up at the end of lesson when we take a look at that. Se is a funny word that does different things in different word combinations. So you can never translate. Se is the least translatable word by itself without context, because it can mean not that many different things. And it depends on what word se is hanging on to what it will mean. Okay, so we'll come back to that. What that means, however, is se cierran muchos negocios means many businesses were closed. It's like a passive voice, were closed. Somebody else closed them, and we don't really talk about who it was who did the closing. They just were closed. That is a use of se that is not reflexive. Okay. A pesar de estar cerrado el zoológico, in spite of the zoo being closed, todos pueden ver el cachorro en línea. Here comes en línea again. Everybody can see the panda online, or the pup online. El zoológico tiene una popular cámara para pandas que records. Yeah, films. Graba can mean recording your voice, la voz. Graba can mean recording como video, as video, either way. Graba en video. Los médicos dicen que el bebé oso está sano, is healthy. Sano es healthy. Okay, we have the word, our word sanitary comes from this same word, sano, long time ago in Latin. Ahora pesa 10.4. Okay, so there, that comma is where we would put a decimal point, 10.4. Libras. Libras son pounds. Y está empezando a gatear. Gatear es crawl. Crawl. Kind of scoot, crawl around, gatear. Okay? Y es el fin, okay? So we had some mente words, we had en línea, we had cachorro, we had some todavía more adverbs. We had se cierran.
Se cierran is se extend. I was going to ask that question too, because I was confused with that.
The se extienda?
Yeah. I mean, this word, like, this sentence here.
That whole sentence.
So se cierran muchos negocios para evitar que el coronavirus se extienda. So I was confused, like, what is that say
what
means
does that
on
say?
that? Yeah,
and the word order flopped around from what you expected too, didn't it? Because they didn't say the businesses were closed. The way you use this say as a not reflexive, but as a passive voice, meaning something was done to something else, is you flip the order. Instead of the noun, businesses coming first, they pop the verb up first. Se cierran muchos negocios. Many businesses are closed. Para evitar que, to avoid that, something might happen. Para evitar que, to avoid that,
El coronavirus.
El coronavirus se extienda, and that uses it looks like a wrong because extender is an ER verb, and what is that doing on an ER verb? It is again what they call a subjunctive, to avoid that something might happen, and we don't know if that thing is going to happen. So when we don't know if something is going to happen, they tag on what looks like a wrong vowel conjugation. That means subjunctive. All that means is when you hear wrong vowel, why'd they do that? They're not wrong. They're not uneducated. They're not estúpidos. No son estúpidos. They're not being dumb. It means that activity, we don't know if it's really going to happen or not. And we're saying avoid coronavirus propagating or spreading. We don't know if that's going to happen. So they plug it into that funky verb mood. It is a mood to say, maybe it'll happen, but maybe not. That's all that means. When you hear the wrong vowel, it means we don't know if that's really going to happen. To avoid this spreading is what they're saying. Businesses are closed to avoid the spread of coronavirus. And we don't know if we have nothing like this in English. Great big goose egg, nothing in English. Our verbs don't do anything to do. As a matter of fact, our verbs in English do different things to indicate what they use in subjunctive in French and Italian and Spanish and a bunch of other languages. We just don't even have that. Except we have it in the past. And most people don't use it.
What is the easy way like to understand that, like, you know, to know how to use this and in this kind of sentence?
You probably would not be able to speak it, but you should be able to hear it and understand. Oh, they mean maybe.
Ah.
Okay, so to speak it, you would have to know.
Is it common? I'm sorry, is it common?
It is very common. It is sadly extremely common, yet it is difficult. And it is usually not taught to first beginner people. But we may, you know, we may do a baby thing with it because to be honest with you, it is super common because someone may say to you, have a good day. How common is that? You buy something at the store, right? You had a nice little, muchas gracias, que tenga buen día. And you say, ooh, tenga, I know tengo. ¿Qué es tenga? What's tenga? Well, tenga is a subjunctive. And it is simply saying, may you have a good day. May you have. But you need to know it comes from tener. I take the word tengo, the yo form, I drop the o from the end. It's an ER verb. I add the opposite, not the e vowels, but the a vowels. Oh my God, how many steps was that?
Wow.
Did that just tie up your brain in a bunch of knots? If it didn't,
Yes.
if it didn't, you're Mensa, man, and I'm not. Okay. So we'll probably, you know, maybe we'll touch on that a little bit because actually it is extremely common. It scares a lot of people. It shouldn't scare you, but it is probably at your stage more important to know from the hearing aspect. Somebody is wishing something for me. And it is not yet a reality that I'm having a good day because my day has just begun, right? Que tenga buen día. Have a good day. I'm just asking that. I hope this happens to you. That's it.
So is this basically is for the uncertain thing that it's happening?
For uncertain, doubtful, sometimes even contrary to fact. Anything that is iffy.
Okay.
We'll use So when you hear a verb that sounds like, wow, they said something, it sounds like they used a wrong conjugation. It's probably just they're using the doubtful, uncertain, iffy kind of verb form.
Okay.
So
Okay.
think of it that way, and don't pressure
Okay.
yourself to, I have to use it, right? Because if you just, use a regular verb, they'll know what you mean. It'll just sound funny. It'll sound funny to them, but they'll get the gist of what you mean. Okay.
Okay.
Bien.
Gracias.
De nada. Ok. A ver, bueno, ok. Vamos a ver. Ustedes vieron, you guys saw this video last week, verbos reflexivos, no? You watched that on your own? See?
Sí.
With this,
Sí.
okay. So you've got an idea of, I'm not going to play that again, but you've got an idea of this family of verbs that we call reflexive. And by the way, they're also super common. There are a whole bunch of them. Some of them just are and don't really belong to the routine thing, but the ones we want to focus on right now are activities that are daily routine kind of activities. So it's important for you to know certain kind of verbs, use this, that when you use them reflexively, it means something. Can you see my pictures up now? See?
No.
Pueden ver? Okay, I thought I had my button up, but I didn't. It's important to know, es importante saber cuál es la diferencia del verbo sin se. The verb without se means one thing. The verb with a se tagged on the end means something else, okay? And it means that idea of reflexive. Whoever does the action, they also receive the benefit of that action as well, okay? So, llamar, to call, but llamarse, to call oneself. And we don't use call oneself that much in English. We say, my name is. You can say, mi nombre es, yo soy, me llamo. All those things carry the same idea. But me llamo, muy importante, reflexivo. Me llamo, me, the yo pronoun form has to match up with a yo verb too. So that pronoun form will be in the same corresponding similar kind of verb form. The verb form will look like it's in the same as the pronoun form, okay? Me llamo. People don't usually say yo me llamo. They could if they want to be real emphatic about it. Okay, yo me llamo. My name is. We would do that by changing the pitch of our voice. And they change, instead of changing the pitch of their voice, they instead plug in the word yo. Yo me llamo. Yo me llamo. Okay, so llamo and llamarse. Despertar, somebody or something to wake you, but despertarse, to wake up. Levantar, to lift, to raise something up, okay, because you're carrying stuff maybe, but levantarse, to get oneself up. And in English, we never say, I lift myself up out of the chair, unless maybe you've got an infirmity and you got one of those chairs that zings you out of the chair. Yeah, the mechanical things. Nobody says it that way. We say, I got up or he gets up. Duchar is always ducharse, oddly enough. It just is. You never hear people using duchar without the se. Bañarse, to bathe oneself, but bañar, to bathe a kid or an animal, right? Lavarse, right, to wash a body part, but lavar, because we wash clothing, we wash dishes, we wash a car, you're washing a thing and not a body part. Many, many words with putting on clothes or getting ready for your day. Una rutina. Vestirse, to get dressed. Vestir would be to dress a little kid who doesn't know how to dress themselves. Ponerse, to put clothing on, but poner without the se is just to put something in a place. Pongo el libro en la mesa. I'm putting the book on the table. It's a thing. Pero me pongo una bufanda hoy. I'm putting on a scarf today. Me pongo un suéter. I'm putting on. Okay, and all these things talk about putting clothing on. Vestirse talks about putting clothing on, right? As well. But just as we have different words in English to say that, they have different words to say it in Spanish. Arreglarse is to get yourself ready, which is really, really general, right? But arreglar without the se is to fix or to arrange something, you know, to put it in the right order, to fix it up, arreglar, right? Peinarse, to comb your own hair, but peinar without the se is what the hairdresser does to you, okay? Same with cepillarse, if they use a brush instead of a comb. But then we have this funny thing with cepillarse los dientes because you use a brush for your teeth. Some countries, especially parts of Mexico, like to use lavarse los dientes instead of cepillarse los dientes. It's just a regional difference. They mean the same thing. People understand both of those meanings. Son equivalentes. They are equivalents, okay? Cepillarse los dientes, lavarse los dientes. But without the se, maybe you brush your kid's teeth, or if you're a really good pet owner, your pet's teeth. Acostarse, to go to bed, but acostar is to put a little kid to bed. Okay, put somebody else in bed. Sentarse, muy común. Sentarse, to sit down, but to set yourself down. But when someone seats you, like an usher who's got the little flashlight, they look at your ticket and the number of your seat, an usher, or a maitre d' in the restaurant. That's just sentar. The maitre d' seats you. That's sentar. Nos sentó. He seated us, meaning he showed us to our table. Okay, but sentarse, to sit down. And then sometimes the se with a reflexive changes the meaning a little bit. Dormir, to sleep, como por ejemplo, dormimos 8 horas cada noche. We sleep 8 hours every night. But nos dormimos does not mean we sleep. It means we fall asleep. The idea of fall is denoted with that word se. So we've got all kinds of verbs that talk about routines, and knowing what they mean is the biggest step right now. Okay, bien. I am wondering if we can take some interrogatives and use them with our reflexives to build some questions. Before I put this up, is there anybody who remembers what an interrogative is? ¿Qué es un interrogativo? What's an interrogative? Think interrogation. It's a question word. It's a question word, nada más. It's nothing more than that. It's a question word. And in Spanish, these question words carry a little accent mark. That doesn't really mean anything to how you pronounce the word, but they just do. But things like a qué hora, at what? Literally at what hour, or hour, but we would say at what time. A qué hora. Cómo, how, cuál, which, and it has a plural one, cuáles. Probably we won't be able to use that one so much with reflexives. Cuándo, when, cuándo and a qué hora son similares. When is just a little more vague. You know, when could mean last week, when could mean what day, When could mean what time, but a qué hora is more specific, at what time, right? A qué hora y cuándo. ¿Cuánto? How much? ¿Cuánto? How much? ¿Cuántos? How many? ¿Dónde? Where? ¿Por qué? Why? ¿Qué? What? ¿Quién? Who? Right? And that might be a plural. ¿Quiénes? With an ES tagged onto the end of quiénes. Meaning a whole bunch of who's, right? Who, but more than one person. So let's think about, especially things like cuándo and dónde and quién, who, or cuánto, how much, or a qué hora, when. And let's think of maybe, can we build some questions with that and some reflexives to ask about when or where or who does something. I'm going to type in the chat box, or maybe I should put it up on the share screen, big screen, because that'll make it easier. I'm going to send you off in groups to do this, but we're going to do this on a share screen first. Okay, por ejemplo, need to bring in my Spanish question marks. Okay. ¿Quién se sienta aquí? ¿Quién se sienta aquí? I used an interrogative. I'm asking who is
Sitting here.
sitting here? Yeah. Maybe you walk into the restaurant and you ask the maitre d' because you really don't know what's like, okay. ¿Dónde me siento?
Where can I sit?
Yeah, where can I sit? And well, down is kind of implied, right? Where can I sit down? Where can I sit? See? Bien? Maybe you want to ask something like, ¿cuándo? Let's make it a two question. ¿Cuándo te lavas las manos? When do you
wash your hands?
Wash your hands. When do you wash your hands? Exacto. Ay. Punctuation marks are the worst things when I switch keyboards. Okay. Oh, por ejemplo. ¿Dónde? No, perdón. ¿A qué hora? ¿A qué hora te acuestas? What time do you go to bed? Maybe you even want to ask, ¿qué te pones cuando hace frío? What do you
Put
put
on
on
when it's cold?
When it's
when
cold?
it's cold? Yeah, sí, así es. Okay, let's take a look at these examples. And we are pairing them up. ¿Quién asks who? Oh, if I use that with a reflexive, it cannot be a yo verb. It cannot be a tu verb. Right? ¿Quién needs to have a talking just about one person kind of verb. It can't be yo, can't be tú, can't be nosotros. ¿Quién se sienta? Who sits down? Because who is a one-person entity. We just don't know. It's somebody, one person, right? So it'll always get a se with the reflexive verb. ¿Quién se sienta? ¿Dónde me siento? Where do I do this? Where should I do this, right? Cuando te lavas, and we got a tu verb with the te pronoun in front of it, right? ¿A qué hora te acuestas? Te pones, okay? Okay, bien. You might, let's take that te pones and phrase it a different way. Let's ask who. ¿Quién se pone? ¿Quién se pone? ¿Quién se pone? ¿Quién se pone sandalias? ¿Quién se pone sandalias en agosto? Who puts on? And that's just asking who. You might say, you might answer that, me pongo sandalias, right? You might answer that, mi hijo se pone. It is asking for a who, so the who could be anybody who's a one person entity. Okay? Bien? Vale? ¿Entienden? Understand?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to put you out in some groups. ¿Cuántos somos? Somos 10. Maybe let's put you out in about 3 different groups so that you're not working with just one person. In case somebody's got a question, you can coach each other. I want to put you out. I want you to think of, come up with 3 or 4, 3 o 4. 3 o 4 preguntas. I want you to cook up 3 or 4 questions. 3 o 4 preguntas. I want you to pull up an interrogative, the who, what, when, where, why, and a reflexive verb, and create a question. Create 3 or 4 questions with your group. ¿Está bien? ¿Entienden? ¿Entienden? ¿Verdad? Okay. Vale, magnífico. One of you is going to have a group of 4. Most of you are going to have groups of 3. And 3 minutos o 5 minutos? 3 o 5.
Cinco.
¿Cuántos minutos? 5 minutos?
Cinco.
5 minutos. Okay. So I'm going to ask you to go out, do that, come back with some ideas and share your ideas when you come back. And we'll handle any questions you've got when you come back. Vale, ¿sí? ¿Entienden? Magnífico. Remember, you have to hit the join button right now, anytime now. ¿quieres practicar conmigo? Do you want to practice with me? Muy bien, a ver. Hola, Marianne.
Here.
Excelente. Esperamos a 6 más, 6 más, 6 más. Aquí vienen. Here they come. Aquí vienen todos. Here comes everybody. Magnífico. Ok. Vale, bueno. ¿Cuáles son los ejemplos que tienen ustedes? What are the examples that you guys have? Un voluntario. Marianne, ¿tienes algo?
Okay, I could start. Not sure about this one. Donde me camino mi perro?
Oh, ¿dónde? Did you use camino?
Camino, yeah.
We won't use camino. We can say this. I'm going to put it down in the chat box. Caminar is not something we generally make reflexive. Actually, this is an okay question because I often get the question, can any verb be reflexive? But
Okay.
technically, maybe, but
Okay.
not always. Yeah, there are a lot of ways to say take a walk. We could also say me paseo con el perro. We usually don't use caminar, but me paseo for I take a walk. Me doy una vuelta.
Okay.
It's like I take a run around the block because that's what you're usually doing with doggy, yeah. So you can use a reflexive, but it just has to be a different one. And that's a
Okay.
vocab thing. That's a vocab thing.
So can you help me define what are reflexive verbs? Are they the ones
Sí.
that you're?
They are, we are learning a specific category of reflexive verbs, which are the daily routine ones.
Okay.
Things that talk about, and I say that because there are others where if you know the meaning, it's like, that doesn't make sense. Why is it reflexive? Well, it just is. But knowing what they are, that sometimes you have a pronoun that matches up and is in the same verb form, and that those two pieces must be together to make sense of that verb. That's why we do these. But these are daily routine things. So get up, sit down, wake up, go to bed, brush your teeth, put on clothes,
Okay.
all those kind of things.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to go next.
Okay.
Yes, I think I have the same problem. Same issue that
That's
Marianne.
okay. That's why we're doing this now.
Exactly. Porque si lamen los gatos.
Porque si se, ¿cuál es el verbo?
Se lamen. That's supposed to be, why do cats lick themselves?
Oh, wow.
Why do cats lick? Yeah.
Okay. Sí, se
So I
puede.
think
That
I
one
should
you
have taken
can.
lemon
No,
today.
that one you can.
Oh, okay.
Because,
Woohoo!
wow, okay. Pero es muy avanzado. That is very reflexive. It means they do that actually. Yeah, cats.
Lick
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah, they do that. They lick themselves. Si se puede. Yes, you can. You can express it that way because they're doing the action. They're licking, but they're not licking a lollipop. They're not lapping up water. They are, yep. Si se puede, you can. Okay. That was a happy accident. Sometimes we get happy accidents.
Yes.
Es una cosa para celebrar. It's a thing to celebrate, yeah.
And we talked about the order. Does the Los Gatos go at the end?
Well, because it's a question, sí.
Okay.
Okay.
In a question, the question word comes up, then your verb, and then whoever does it trails way after, quite often. That's,
Yeah,
that's
I
the
originally had the
usual
question
order.
okay.
But because it's a question, that's why it does that. Sí, okay. Vale, magnífico. Otros ejemplos.
¿Quién te
Yes.
sientas a la mesa?
Oh, okay. We had two going at one time. Diana, perdón. Diana, sí. I'll take you first and then Juanita, okay? Sí.
¿Quién sientes a la mesa?
Who sits down? ¿Quién? ¿Quién? And there will be quien se sienta or se sienta. ¿Quién se sienta? Because we don't know who.
Oh,
We're
it's so
asking the who,
unknown.
and right, and it's not a you specific. So,
Okay.
¿quién se sienta? Who is sitting down?
A la mesa.
Dice,
A la mesa.
en la mesa. En la
En la
mesa.
mesa.
En la mesa, right? Because en, it's
At.
stayed. A means motion. En is in a place. ¿Quién se sienta? ¿Quién se sienta? It's not letting me type it in here. ¿Quién se sienta en la mesa? Bien. ¿Quién se sienta en la mesa? I'm missing my other question mark, but you get the idea. ¿Quién se sienta en la mesa? Pueden ver, can you see, pueden ver la pantalla. Can you see the chat box screen?
Yeah.
Sí, exacto. Okay. But it's got to be a se sienta there because the who means it's a somebody, but we don't know who that somebody is.
Well,
But it's
quien
not
is always,
you.
quien is always say.
Quien will always use a say
say.
because it's talking about a somebody, but
Okay.
not you, not me, not us. Exacto. Bien. Okay. Juanita, ¿tienes un ejemplo?
Okay, I will try this. ¿Cómo me dijo comer en francés?
¿Cómo?
Me dijo
¿Cómo?
comer.
How
Can
do I
we
say
say
to
that?
myself? How do I
Yeah,
say?
can I say? It's like I was like wondering, like,
Here's how you would say that.
How can I say eat in French? You know what? That's what I mean.
Right. Okay. And now, Juanita, qué buena pregunta. What a great question this is. I'm going to show you how, and you're almost there, but we're going to morph it a little.
Oh.
Es muy importante. Here is a really important thing. Juanita tiene un ejemplo muy importante. She's got a really important thing. How do you say? How does one say? This is going to tie right into that thing of when is say not really reflexive. This isn't really reflexive, but I know in English you would say, how do I say? And that is just como digo, how do I say? But really what you mean by asking that question is how does anybody say this, right?
Right.
Not just me, the one person. How would anybody say this?
Yes.
So what we're really saying is how does one say? And the way of expressing that is como se dice.
Como se dice? Okay.
How does one say? And this ties right into how say isn't really reflexive. So you have, but it is an A+ star question. An A+ star question because
it's not reflexive.
Yeah, it's not reflexive, but we use the say. So we're going to tie this into the end of our lesson today. Y es importante, and it's really super important. So, okay, ¿cómo se dice? Okay, not all verbs are reflexive, and that say looks like it should be reflexive, but we do use say to express that idea. Okay, otro ejemplo.
Okay.
Otro ejemplo. Okay,
Next.
Patricia, Trish, I'm going to take you first.
Okay. ¿Quién se defiende el prisionero?
Ooh, okay. ¿Quién se defiende? And I am going to show you two things. ¿Quién se defiende would mean who defends oneself.
Oh.
It would be me defending, but not somebody else. That
Okay.
poor schmo there. No, but me, numero uno, number one. Yeah. Who defends themselves? Who defends the prisoner? ¿Quién? Por ejemplo, ¿quién defiende al prisionero? who defends the prisoner, but that's one person doing something to,
Another.
Somebody else.
right. Okay, so se defiende would mean
Right.
coming back on me, right? Coming back on me. So what I want to try to steer you guys into are really this class of verbs they showed you in the examples. Even though I know defenderse is a thing, you're getting pretty advanced. We want to stick with levantarse, lavarse, acostarse, dormirse, right? Despertarse, those things that are in that family of vocab about routine.
Okay.
We want to try to stick with that and not get too fancy right now. I don't want to hold you back, but sometimes these can be quite tricky. And these are getting into tricky territory, okay? Bien. Okay, otro ejemplo, another example. Suwai, tienes.
So I have a question.
Oh, okay.
So I wrote a sentence, I thought it was reflective, but now with our discussion, I'm thinking it's not reflexive. So I had written, ¿Quién se duerme en mi cama?
Está bien. ¿Quién se duerme en mi cama? I've got it down in the chat box. ¿Quién se duerme en mi cama? Who's falling asleep in my bed? There's a three bears.
Is that reflexive?
Sí. Fall asleep is falling asleep. Who's snoozing out? ¿Quién se duerme? ¿Quién se duerme en mi cama? Dice el oso, says the bear. Dice el papá oso, says Papa Bear. ¿Quién se duerme en mi cama?
So if
Exacto.
you had the sentence, ¿Quién duerme en mi cama? That's a totally different thing.
Buena pregunta. Muy buena pregunta. ¿Quién duerme en mi cama? Who is sleeping in my bed? ¿Quién duerme en mi cama? ¿Quién se duerme en mi cama? Who is falling asleep in my bed? Es la diferencia. That's the difference.
Okay.
Okay, bien, bueno. Okay, ahora Suwai.
¿A qué hora se despiertan los hijos?
Muy bien. Muy bien. ¿A qué hora? At what time se despiertan los hijos o niños?
Hijos.
Hijos.
The children.
Children, sí. ¿A qué hora se despiertan los hijos? What time are the kids waking up? Kids meaning children. Yeah. One's offspring. Bien. ¿A qué hora se despiertan? Se despiertan más que uno, more than one kid. Ok, ¿a qué hora se despiertan los hijos? Exacto. Muy bien. Perfecto. Ok, vale. Otros ejemplos. Any other examples people want to share?
¿Cuántas veces te cepillas los dientes cada día?
Me gusta mucho. Ok. ¿Cuántas veces te cepillas los dientes cada día, no? ¿Cuántas veces te cepillas los dientes cada día? How many times you brush your teeth every day? You could say al día, besides cada día. There are different ways to say that. But sí, ¿cuántas veces? How many times? Veces es femenina. Times, meaning iterations, is a feminine word. ¿Cuántas? So it has to be cuántas instead of cuántas. ¿Cuántas veces? ¿Cuántas veces te cepillas? Ok, muy bien. Buen ejemplo. Ok, más ejemplos. ¿Sí? ¿No? ¿Sí? ¿No? No hay más ejemplos. This is Dorothea. Dorothy, ¿tienes o no? No, she's just listening. Okay. This is a a run-up. For homework, I will be giving you a list of questions. And you'll need to print that out. These are things you're going to use to go into groups next week and ask each other things back and forth. What time do you do this? When do you do this? Where do you do this? You know, why do you do it? You're going to ask each other questions and see if you can answer, be thinking about how would I answer this question? It might be asking about you. It might be asking about your husband or wife. It might be asking about your kids. It might be asking about your neighbor. It might be asking about anybody. It might be asking you directly about yourself. Bien? But we're going to employ combining these interrogatives with the reflexives to ask questions. So you're going to get those ahead of time so that you can practice, you know, how do I pronounce these? And think about, how will I answer that when my partner asks me this question? How will I answer it? ¿Está bien? Are we good with that? Okay.
Sí.
Hay una pregunta. Is there any question, or do you want to add another example before we move on? Because moving on, we're just going to move on to a slightly different aspect of this, not like a whole new different topic. No?
Yeah, can we say cuánto te pagas? Who's pay? Like who? I mean, like
No. Oh, pagar?
I mean, yeah.
No.
How much?
Because,
how much you pay?
No. Okay. I'm going to show you, however, in a big box, because you pay somebody, don't you, Juanita? Right? I mean,
Yes.
you pay somebody.
Correct.
Okay. I'm going to show you the difference in a nutshell, but this will probably require a different lesson, but that's okay. We're going to bring up a different box for this. Okay. Pagar. No es reflexivo. This one is not reflexive. Unless you pay yourself. If you view saving money as paying yourself, and you say something like, but boy, this is advanced. Cuando ahorro dinero, when I save money, me pago, I pay myself. That would be okay, because you're really paying yourself when you save money. Vale, aren't you? But yeah, so here's where I'm going to show you something. The difference between a direct and an indirect, just as kind of a precursor. I might say, pago la cuenta de la electricidad. I'm paying the electric bill, right? See? What am I paying? I'm paying the
bill.
I'm paying the electricity bill. That is when I use the verb pago, pay, and I say, what am I paying? That is what we call a direct object. What am I paying? What applied to the verb pay? What am I paying? La cuenta de electricidad. That is a direct object. It's the thing I'm paying. I could take this word, la cuenta de la electricidad, and I can shorten it down into it. I'm paying it, right? Mm-hmm. And if I do that, it turns into this. It turns into the word la. And I stick the word la in front of pago. I'm paying it. And that little word la takes the place, and it totally kicks out, gets rid of the whole string of words, la cuenta de la electricidad. Because I want to shorten it down to it. So it becomes la. It's a feminine thing. It's la cuenta, right? La pago, I'm paying it.
Okay.
And just like me pago, I pay myself, but I'm really not paying myself if I'm paying the electricity bill, am I? Just like the pronoun for, me siento for Me despierto for me lavo las manos. Just like that me goes in front of the verb, the word it, la, goes in front of the verb. Okay, so these little pronouns always come, or always, when I'm using it in a conjugated sentence, they do always come in front of the verb. But then there's a difference. But pago, pago $100. Luisa, let's say I owe Luisa $100 for some reason. What am I paying to? What am I paying? What am I paying?
$100.
$100. That's a direct object. But wait a minute. Who gets that $100?
Luisa.
Luisa. Luisa is what we call the indirect object. Luisa is not the thing I am paying. I'm paying $100, $100. Luisa gets the $100, right?
Mm.
So it becomes this. I'm paying her is le pago $100. And this is, that little word le means this. I'm paying her. The le means this. She gets the 100. She gets the thing I am paying. Which is why you you saw that little thing in the article about le ponen el nombre. They put the name on him. That's the difference. Es la diferencia. ¿Entiendes? Understand? That's kind of part of a bigger lesson, but that's the difference between, reflexives versus direct versus indirect. Okay, we're going to focus just on reflexives for conversation.
Okay.
I want to show you real quickly though, before we leave. La tarea, homework, is going to be, you're going to get the questions. There'll probably be about 10 or 15 of them. Okay, 10 o 15. It'll be like 10 or 15 because they're all going to be short. They're not going to be complicated. Just going to be, when do you do something? When does somebody do something? Where does somebody do something? Who does something? It's going to be stuff like that. Okay. So you're going to have the questions. You're going to have a video to watch where she's going to have a lot of, I'm going to show you what the video would look like so you'll know what it looks like. It'll look like that. It's butterfly Spanish. She's going to show you all kinds of situations where the me or the te or the nos or the se does not come in front of the verb. It's longish, so it's homework because I'm not showing 23 minutes of a video during class. That eats up too much time. And really, this is not given in with the idea of reflexive specifically. Some of these are not reflexive. Some are direct objects. It's basically, she's going to show you how any pronoun, whether it's reflexive or something else, how any pronoun sometimes gets stuck onto the tail end instead of in front of the verb. And so what you're going to see is you're going to see a whole bunch of commands.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to see how those little words me, te, no, se, or maybe le or les, because there are a few of those in there. So some are not reflexive, but how sometimes they get tagged onto the end, and they get tagged onto the end when we're telling somebody, do it. Because in everyday conversation, you very often hear people tag these pronouns, me, te, se, nos, or le or les. Tag them onto the end. And that means they're giving you a command. They're giving you an order. They're telling you, go do this. They're telling you, and I'm looking down her list, wait for, well, espérate. They're telling you, wait up, wait for me, relax. Relájate. Relájate is a command. Chill out, man. Relax. They're telling you, shut up, cállate. They're telling you, hey, sit down. People are not saying, hey, you're doing this. It's a fact. They're saying, hey, go do it. And when we say, hey, go do it, they'll take those little pronouns and tag them on the end. So she's going to have a pretty long thing for you to listen to on that. You're going to have questions which will not be that. They'll put the mete no se in front of the verb. Okay, so you're going to see that used two different ways. Okay. And Ike. And I was going to introduce this, but I don't know if we have time. Oh, see, yeah. And I'm going to have a different video for you that will talk about when se is not se. I'm sorry, when se is not reflexive. One other use of se that is super, super common, and I show you these because it is super, super common. And I'm going to give you a preamble to this. This is a preamble to the second video that will be homework. There are times when se will not be reflexive. It is called the se impersonal, the impersonal se. And that is the se that Juanita used in the example of se dice. Se dice. Okay. These ideas of se are not really reflexive. And by the way, they're always se. They're never mete nos. They're never those. They're only se. Only se. These are what we call impersonal phrases, but they will not be reflexive. And you'll think, well, they're not. They're not reflexive, but they are valid. They are grammatical, and they mean we're saying this in an impersonal way. You do something, but not you, the one you person, I'm looking you in the eyeball, but you, any old you. The you with the idea of any old you, any human being in general. In other words, our famous phrase in English, one does this, one simply does not do this. But that sounds a little highfalutin in English. One does not do it that way. We would be more likely to say as Americans, you don't do it that way. And I don't mean you, but you, anybody, don't do it that way. Okay, let's see how se is used in that way, because you'll see another little video about this. And I'll show you where they talk about it in the book. Se will be paired up with third person, tercera persona singular, or sometimes tercera persona plural, sometimes less frequently with a plural verb, usually a onesie kind of verb. Se habla español. Spanish is spoken. You speak Spanish. One speaks Spanish. That's what it means. But it's not really reflexive, but they are using that word se that you think, oh, it should be reflexive. You see where I'm going with this? Entienden? And these are super, super common phrases. Use se in this way, but it'll fool you. It isn't quite reflexive. Se venden hamburguesas in Burger King. They sell hamburgers. You sell hamburgers. Hamburgers are sold. That's what it means. Not really reflexive. Because it doesn't mean the hamburgers are selling themselves. It's meaning they're being sold. Se dice lata para can, or tin if you're British. En español, you say, one says, lata for that word can, meaning a tin can, right? Se usa una cuchara para comer la sopa. You use a spoon to eat soup. Si se puede. Yes, you can. Yes, anybody can. Si se puede. Or this idea of se prohíbe. Se prohíbe. It is forbidden. The opposite of se puede is se prohíbe. You can't. It's not allowed. Okay. Se hacen vinos muy finos en Francia. They make very fine wines in France. The wines don't make themselves. I know the se looks like it should be reflexive, but it isn't. It just means they are made. So I'm going to show you a little video that's going to show how they use just the se, and it won't really be reflexive. It'll be what they call the se impersonal, meaning one does something or something is done in a passive sort of way. Okay, ¿entienden? ¿Entienden? And this is super useful because you'll see it in signs and you'll see it as people giving you advice. Oh, sí se puede. Yes, you can do whatever that. Se puede fumar. You can smoke here. Ah, no se puede fumar. You cannot smoke here, right? Se prohíbe fumar. Smoking is forbidden.
Does that say make it a more formal statement? Because on the last question,
Kind
could you
of.
not say hacen muchos vinos en Francia? Could you not just begin it that way?
You could. It makes it impersonal, meaning this thing is done.
More general,
In a
more,
very general way, yes.
okay.
Impersonal means I'm not saying you as in you, the person I'm looking at, but you in its most general, broadest sense. And that use of se is something you hear people do almost daily, or say almost daily on the street. So we're going to look at when se is not reflexive as well. Okay? ¿Está bien?
Bien.
Fantástico. Eso es todo. That's it. I don't want to go too far over. 4 minutos. I only went 4 minutes over. Felicidades. Okay. Muy bien. Okay, vale. Creo
Muy
que es
bien.
suficiente. I think that is enough. ¿Sí? ¿Es suficiente? Questions that you have to practice to come in and do some speaking practice and seeing where those little reflexives get attached instead of coming in front of the verbs so that you're prepared for that. And then looking at when se is not really reflexive. ¿Está bien? Oh, y el libro. In the book, I'm going to tell you too. When se is not se, but when se is impersonal is in your book and one little lonely page. 203, 203, 203, but I'll put that in the email. ¿Está bien?
Sí.
Magnífico. Nos vemos el lunes. We'll see each other Monday. Que tengan buena semana. Have a good week.